We had a team come up from the audiology department, and we put headphones on him. And I talked into a microphone, and I said his name, Ikaika, and he turned, and he looked at me for the first time because he could hear me. Oh my gosh, he heard me call his name. When we were pregnant, and we were thinking about names for our son, and we came across the name Ikaika. And we looked it up in the Hawaiian name book, and it said, oh, Ikaika means strong. And we didn't realize that he would need that name to be a strong, powerful warrior. Well, we had a pretty normal labor and delivery. You know, they suction, and they're doing all their tests and things, and they just kind of kept trying to suction him and suction him. And I got to see him for a little bit, and then they just sort of whisked him away and tried to clear his airway. And he didn't really come back. And so I kept asking, you know, where is he? What's going on? And they said, oh, he's having a little bit of trouble breathing. We can't seem to clear his nasal passages. Within 6 hours of his birth, they had called the team over at Kapiolani, and they sent a transport team to bring him over to Kapiolani Hospital where he could get the best care.
When I got there, I saw him in an isolate with tubes coming out of him. That was one of the hardest nights we had, by ourselves without our child.
Lots and lots of tests, lots of specialists coming in, lots of poking and prodding, and they discovered he had a hole between his esophagus and his trachea, and they needed to do surgery. That first surgery at 10 days old was first of 12. I remember the first time he actually did let me hold him. He was all bundled up and wrapped up, and he had black, straight, short hair sticking up out of the blankets. That was the first picture that anybody, our friends and family, got to see of Ikaika. After his first surgery that he had, we tried to feed him, and he coded. He turned blue. So they put a G-tube in, and that was his second surgery.
Typically for tube feeding, there are different types of tube. There's one that goes down the nose, and then there's one more permanent that is requires surgical, replacement of the tube directly on the stomach wall. We had more tests done and discovered he had a couple breathing issues. He had one of his vocal cords, your vocal cords move like this, and one was not moving in only one side. So sometimes that would collapse, and then he couldn't breathe and catch his breath, and his heart rate would go down, and it was pretty scary.
He had very significant airway issues to a point where he could not breathe on his own, and he was dependent on a ventilator to help him to breathe as well. I offered the parents to do a tracheotomy tube, which is a surgical airway placed through the neck incision and create an opening into his windpipe and allow him to breathe through that tube.
Every day was a new day for us. There'd be times where Amanda and I would silently cry, but it was hard at times.
When he was 2 months old, and we had just put the trach in, we were thinking about getting ready to go, and they said, oh, there's another test that we need to do now that he's more medically stable. We need to do another hearing test. And that's when we discovered that he had a moderate to severe hearing loss.
He cannot hear speech if people talk in the normal conversational level like this. We started to put hearing aid on him because his parents would like him to start to hear, because the child learning process starts when all the senses are being activated, including hearing.
I can remember the first time Ikaika heard an airplane. He actually signed airplane, because we were signing with him, and he signed airplane, and I looked up in the sky and I said, you're right, babe, you heard the airplane, and it was such a joy. We take for granted often our kids can hear things or say things, and just to know that with his hearing aids he could hear that sound, and with sign language he could sign to me and tell me that he heard it. Well, when you come home from the hospital, that's not it. Being medically fragile says that this child can go home, but there's always the chance, one moment they can be healthy and strong, and the next moment they could be down coding blue and you're back in the hospital again. We had a great primary nurse, and she taught us how to be Ikaika's parents. how to change the G-tube, how to change the trach, how to do all the things we needed to do, make the formula, feed him. So great to have somebody there to walk us through and teach us so that we were able to take care of it the next time.
Right.
There was a lot of follow-up appointments at Kapiolani. He had several doctors, and they all wanted to see him weekly in the beginning, and then it was monthly, and then it was every 3 months, and then we dropped off a doctor here and there because he was doing so well. We're now up to every 6 months with a few of our specialists at Kapiolani.
He has been working on make friends with food because he is so aversive towards anything coming to his face. At one point, he was able to take yogurt and pudding, but transition to eating more solid texture is a different story because he never learned how to chew.
So it's just a learning process. Every time he swallows, he has to think about swallowing. Every time he chews, he's got to think about not biting his tongue and where those things are. So it's just a process, but we're getting there.
Ikaika's hearing has to be monitored at least once every 6 months. When we do the hearing test, we put him in the soundproof room, and then we do the testing with the hearing aid on. And that when we tweak how much we need to reduce, how much we need to give him more, what frequencies.
In one place, you've got the right people. If you need an x-ray, it's right there. You need the audiology department, they're right there. You need the heart doctor, they're right there. He's so much better. You know, the trach is out now, and he goes to school, and he's very independent. Kapiolani is still there for us, and we envision them still in our lives. You know, we still go up to the NICU and see the nurses up there, because some of them are still there that knew Ikaika, and they'll look at Ikaika and go, "Oh my gosh, you're 9 years old, look at you, your trach is out, you're going to school, you're growing, you're huge." And it just reinforces again that family feeling that we have there.
The future is very hopeful for Ikaika. His speech is getting better. Earlier today, I heard that he's eating pancakes, and that's a humongous improvement.
And I think Ikaika's nature is beautiful. He loves life. I think he had so many challenges early, and he had a lot of close calls early, that he values life and cherishes it and sees every moment as just a way to say, thank God I'm alive, and thank God things are well.